Let's unravel Geeta's world. Hello and welcome. This is the 86th episode of Geeta's World. Geeta is here with me. How are you, Geeta?
Very well.
How was your weekend? I heard
Good, because
we
there was some
won.
very good news.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's regarding the award that Geeta's World has won for Best Show Host. Yeah.
Yeah.
At India Audio Awards and Summit 2024. That was held in Mumbai. I was there. Geeta was not, unfortunately, because
We were
Geeta
just
is a very
discussing last week that, you ought to write to us, comment, like us, because we also need to win awards, be there. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
doing that, for helping us uh, be present in possible spaces where podcasts are honored, appreciated, acknowledged. And thank you
Yeah.
to not just our viewers, but to the entire team that works behind these cameras, behind these mics.
Yeah.
Help us, become what we are and put out one of the finest shows, I should say, because India Today Group has won quite a few awards. So one of the finest shows in India on foreign policy.
Yeah. And we have won actually 14 awards in total.
Wow.
Yeah,
See?
14 awards. Yeah. So the other podcast that we do under the India Today podcast banner. So altogether we have won six awards for the English shows, and the rest are for the Hindi shows that we do under the podcast banner. So thank you so much, and keep supporting us, keep loving us, and keep writing to us. That means a lot. Today, at Geeta's World, I mean, this edition, we are talking about something really controversial that happened. I mean, that's actually ongoing this entire
Yes.
week. So, after I think the Katchatheevu Island in Sri Lanka, which we were actually meaning to, speak about in the last edition, but we spoke about Bangladesh. But this week is the Gwadar Port in Balochistan. That's the controversy because I don't know. I mean, Geeta will definitely weigh on it.
I thought it's election season.
That's why,
And
yeah.
when you have national elections, at least, foreign policy wonks such as us can take a back seat and
Yeah.
lie low, but
Although-
not really.
although-
we've had China come up, we've had Sri Lanka come up, and now we have Pakistan coming up. Of course, POK is a matter of
Yeah.
election rallies any which way, but Gwadar Port again, is a controversy that's new. But
Not
again,
many of us actually know about it. And that's why Geeta will weigh in on that, because ahead of Lok Sabha elections, the fixation towards Nehruvian so-called blunders
Comes to light.
It's quite the trend. So just a bit of background to those of you who are not well versed with the Gwadar port, not exactly the controversy, but the port itself. This is actually the fulcrum for Pakistan and China's major, economic developments, and it's also called the crown jewel of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC. And while it may seem that it's all very rosy, you're talking about developments and everything, but the thing is that all's actually not well, because just last month or in I think the previous months of just this year, there were like massive floods, and it was one of the worst floods that hit the region. There's low population density, there's insufficient water. I was watching a podcast in which a Pakistani journalist who had actually been there to the port, and he was discussing he said that पानी पीने का पानी नहीं है, but अभी इतना पानी है that where do we put the water, because there's no water to drink and nobody is talking about it. The international community does not care. But anyway, I think we will focus on all these things, all these issues which are very crucial. But amid all the protests that is happening regarding skirmishes, incursions, there are several attacks. But let's get on to this entire spicy controversy about Nehru actually not accepting Gwadar Port. So, as far as I read, what I could understand is that how Gwadar Port actually wasn't always with Pakistan in the beginning. It was under Omani rule for almost 200 years until the 1950s. And it first came into Omani possession in 1783. And before Gwadar finally ended up in Pakistani possession in 1958, it was actually offered to India. That's what people are saying, that's what the BJP is saying, in which the Indian government under Prime Minister Nehru declined. So, and I don't know, I've not gone into the archives, but the reports that I read, which quoted a few diplomats who said that most of Balochistan was absorbed by Pakistan in 1948, but the coastal strip around Gwadar, called Makran, did not accede until 1952. And Gwadar still remained outside Pakistani control. And it was at this point of juncture that the Sultan of Oman extended the offer of sale to India. So first, break this for me.
Yes.
Is it actually true, the history that we quoted?
See, most of the conversations or the advice that was given to Jawaharlal Nehru during the time has been redacted.
Yeah.
So there is no confirmation. Redacted means it's no longer available for public consumption in the on the files. So we do not know whether if there is officially what the advice to Jawaharlal Nehru was.
Okay.
When this offer was made. But yes, Gwadar Port today, in today's context, Anna, is a strategically very important port. And with China making inroads and having the entire connectivity route, Gwadar has become one of the most important parts of the CPEC project, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is part of the larger BRI, Belt and Road Initiative of China. So it is very, very important. And that is in today's context. There was a time when Gwadar Port had nothing. In fact, even now, it is taking a very long time for them to really develop Gwadar. It is still not where it should be, and that we will talk about. The problems that exist in Balochistan is the reason why we've seen such delays. Yeah. Now, this offer was made to Jawaharlal Nehru, if it was, according to some diplomats cited in some of these articles. If it was offered to Jawaharlal Nehru, to India back then by the Sultan of Oman, then look at it from that perspective, from that day and age. At a time when India was just partitioned, at a time when India was reeling under intense civil strife, the Hindu-Muslim conflict had not ended. Both economies were in shambles. India, particularly so, we had poverty levels that were really high. Sardar Patel was trying to get all the other provinces and principalities into the Indian territory. That was still happening. And at that juncture, when the bigger role was being played by Sardar Patel in getting all of them included, we do not know what his decision or his views on this exactly were. But some of the diplomats who've talked about it say that Gwadar we already had a Kashmir problem because, the claims had already begun, right? And Gwadar is well within Pakistani territory with no land access to India. It would have been an enclave. We only recently resolved the enclaves between India and Bangladesh with that land boundary agreement, finally transferring what were Indian enclaves on the Bangladeshi sides to Bangladesh and taking the parts, those enclaves which are Bangladeshi enclaves on Indian side into Indian territory, so that we have a settled boundary between the two countries. Now, having an enclave, having an area well within Pakistan with no land access would have made our port vulnerable to Pakistani attacks.
Yeah.
Would India have wanted that? Look at the pros and cons. You're looking at this. Now they're looking at this as a huge strategic blunder. We should have bought it. Should we have bought? Look at the other area, Kashmir, which they were illegally laying claim to. Even that area, when they thought that they wanted to capture or they had the opportunity, they sent their men in to capture those territories. The tribals were there. And over here, we would have spent money,
Yeah.
and Pakistan would have taken it. If anything, today we would have had two areas which would have been considered disputed, and we would have been fighting over Gwadar and Kashmir, which is POK,
Yes.
because we consider only POK as the area which is disputed between India and Pakistan. Currently, it is the whole of Jammu and Kashmir. But for India, it would be POK. The whole of Jammu and Kashmir has to be resolved between the two countries, although.
Yeah.
So these would be the two areas that we would be talking about, the whole of Jammu and Kashmir and Gwadar, apart from other areas that, have been in question and have been a problem area between the two sides. So I'm just saying that one has to look at it with the perspective of what happened then. The advice that was given, we do not know. But we do know that there are considerations that other diplomats talk about, wherein the fact that there was no land access to Gwadar would have been a huge problem. We would have had to fight this. So yes, today you can say, but if it was disputed, at least we knew we could lay claim and someday we would have gotten it back. Maybe. But right now, it does seem like, everything is in context of an earlier regime's blunder. But I'm just saying, put this to someone else. If this was not Nehru or someone else, another prime minister from another party who had just taken over, inherited an entire country that was reeling under tensions and under civil conflict and sectarian and religious conflict with no money, to be taking on more than what Sardar Patel had already aimed at doing, ensuring, consolidating the land that is India.
Yeah, I think very well explained, Geeta, because these are the things, these are the factors that you mentioned, the background. Like, we always take these so-called developments or decisions in isolation, but the background of it, whatever the strifes were going on, that's never considered. So we can say that almost like 65 years later, the so-called decline of the priceless gift from the Sultan of Oman, can we say that it might look like a look like a diplomatic blunder as it's being claimed
in today's context,
while others might be of the notion that it was a nuanced and pragmatic thing to do at that point of time. So if we actually go into this debate, what do you make of it? In what side, do you actually weigh your claims on that? What did India let go of?
See, India, at that point, again, at that juncture, what did Nehru aim to achieve, which every prime minister has tried and aimed to achieve, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which is to have better ties with Pakistan. Should we have taken Gwadar, it would have just provoked Pakistan furthermore. Should we have feared provocation? Not really. But right at this point in time, having a territory which is well within some other country's territory would have been maybe a problem area for us for a long time, till I think Pakistan had the wherewithal to take over the area, and us giving them a tough fight in that region would have been a problem. All that we could have done is then looked at the international community, and that can continue, because then they would have come out saying that, well, originally it is the Khan of Kalat. Now, if you ask the Khan of Kalat, it is actually quite interesting. They are very upset with Pakistan. They think Balochistan should be a free territory. It should not be with Pakistan. So they had a lot to lose anyway, Pakistan, should Balochistan not have been their territory. But it is right now their territory. It is a secessionist movement that is up against the Pakistani establishment. But yes, in the larger context, which is what we were going to discuss, Anna, Balochistan, in the larger context, Anna, which is what we were going to discuss, Balochistan is an oppressed and deprived province of Pakistan, very resource rich, but deprived. Everything that is in Balochistan goes, which includes gas, the Sui gas pipeline, which all of that goes to catering to the needs of the Punjab, parts of Sindh. and some other parts of KPK maybe, but primarily the Punjab, which is where the leadership of Pakistan really comes from. So it's very, very strange that today we are asking for this. But again, should Gwadar have been Indian territory, maybe the Baloch would have said this is also our territory, and because originally it was the Khan of Kalat. And so the Khan of Kalat's family that owned this entire region is still fighting for an autonomous or a free sovereign Balochistan. The Baloch are very unhappy with Pakistan, and is the reason why while Gwadar seems like a very strategic catch, and it is. But in terms of having that footprint and getting it going has been a Herculean task. Look at the kind of attacks. So when you mention, Oman and the ownership, one has to talk about Khan of Kalat too, which is why I brought him in. Now, who was the original owner of the Gwadar Port? It was the Khan of Kalat, which is an entire family. They're now living in exile in the UK, but they were the original owners. It was in 1783 that this port was handed over to the Sultan of Oman. Basically, it was a gift to the Prince of Oman, saying that and the idea was that when he ascended to the throne, that then he can return the port to the Khan of Kalat, which really did not happen. Later, as you see, that he kept pursuing the port, but the Omani Sultanate kept the port up until we had the British political agents who came and started handling the port along with Oman till the so-called offer was made to India, and later it was sold to Pakistan. But the thing over here is that when the offer was made, it was not made in agreement or with the consent of the Khan of Kalat.
Okay.
It was made as if it's theirs, and there's already a disagreement or a dispute between Oman and the Khans of the region who owned it originally. So they wanted it back anyway. And why did they want it back? Not because they wanted to hand it over to either Pakistan or India. They wanted it back because they have been claiming this space as their own, and they do think that Pakistan's presence in Balochistan and this area is illegal, that this should have been their area, and that they never conceded or agreed to becoming a part of Pakistan.
Okay, got it,
So it was they never conceded to Balochistan becoming a part of Pakistan. It was in fact annexed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah in 1948. So the Khan of Kalat can actually claim more than anyone else ownership of Balochistan and of Gwadar.
Wow. So these are the things I think, people often tend to, because they're like, acha, okay, we are getting the message, we are getting the political message, but what is behind that?
Because Prime Minister Modi spoke about Balochistan, India spoke about supporting Balochistan, and here we would have had a problem with the Baloch. Should we have claimed ownership of Gwadar
of the port? So I think we can very much now say that the decision, whatever, to reject the Omani offer of getting the port was, made by keeping in mind the realities of that situation in that era. So I think we'll move on to, like you mentioned in the beginning, and the bigger problem that Balochistan is facing. In fact, we did an episode regarding the airstrike that was ensured between Pakistan and Iran in the Baloch insurgency areas. So there were actually, since January, a lot has been happening. So we're trying to, I'm just listing a few incidents that have dominated headlines, not much, but on a few portals that actually cover these in detail. So there was one incident where 5 Chinese engineers working on the Dasu dam project. They were killed in a suicide bomb attack in northwest Pakistan, and there were like hundreds of Chinese people who were working. Who are employed at that project. And earlier this month, there was at least 2 Pakistani soldiers and 8 assailants. They were killed after unidentified gunmen opened fire at the port. And there was another incident, another attack at the Pakistani Naval Air Base at Turbat. The BLA, the
Balochistan.
Liberation Army, they have claimed responsibility, although Pakistan has denied, saying that, we curtailed the attack and everything, but we don't know the reality. They are saying that we killed, the BLA is saying that we have killed 25 Pakistani soldiers, but Pakistan is denying that. So trying to understand this, that, we know that Pakistan and China, they are allies, Chini bhai bhai, Pakistan Chini bhai bhai. And the security of Chinese workers, that's like a major concern to both China and Pakistan, because economically, how much Pakistan is dependent. So if you can explain through these 3 incidents about these separatist and radical religious terrorist organizations such as the BLA, then there's TTP, Taliban Pakistan. What is the sentiment against the CPEC project that's happening, and why is the BLA attacking the Chinese workers there?
So the BLA, or the Baloch Liberation Army, is, according to Pakistan, a terrorist organization, a secessionist movement. Many recognize them as those who've picked up arms to. It's an armed struggle against Pakistan's occupation of Balochistan, but Balochistan is indeed considered a part of Pakistan. So yes, this is a secessionist movement against the Pakistani administration and establishment. Having said that, why is this happening? Is because Pakistan uses all of Balochistan resources. If you go there, the people of Balochistan, Baloch, are still one of the most poor and backward people of Pakistan. There is very little gender equality, very little education, access to resources and amenities, almost very little or nil. So we are looking at an entire area that has been left the way it is today for decades, just because Pakistan wanted to take all the resources and become and make those provinces rich or comfortable, that where the leadership stays, which is the Punjab and now Sindh as well.
Just one thing, Geeta, it's very appalling, very upsetting as well. Like, we are talking about a port that is so impoverished. I mean, these are the things that they are tackling. Not enough water to drink, but what is the narrative that people are actually attracted to? Is that Nehru ko mila and then he did not buy. So,
but the thing is this, Anna, in today's context, if you look at the location of Gwadar, that makes it very, very important. So you can, in hindsight, say, why didn't you do this? In hindsight, we can ask a lot of questions of lots of governments, including the current administration, on what has been done and on various fronts, right? But in hindsight is not the thing. It is in context, what is right and what they thought of. I don't think any country was trying to, any leader back then especially, your freedom fighters, were trying to break the country or make your country weak.
Of course.
They were trying to work towards building a nation and what they deemed fit and how they deemed fit.
Who are the freedom fighters? That's also a narrative.
Yeah. But they were all, to me, they were all freedom fighters, from Vallabhbhai Patel, Bose, to Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi. All of them were freedom fighters. They had a certain ideology which might not be aligned with the ideology of some political, quarters. It might be a different spectrum, but does not mean that they were trying to weaken the country or break the country. And that is in context. Having said that, within Pakistan has so much to look within in terms of what they've done to their own country. The leadership did not try to unite the country. All they were doing was leaving the Balochistan to fend for themselves and using all their rich gases, minerals, oil, all of that
Yeah.
to their own advantage, and which is why Balochistan is in the state it is in.
Hmm.
Why is it if the Pakistani establishment would have sought and looked at developing Balochistan,
Exactly.
giving them equal opportunity, providing them with whatever that Balochistan deserves for all the profit that and revenues that it brings to the country, then maybe Balochistan or all Baloch, all of them would not have been this against the Pakistani establishment. And I keep saying establishment because it's not the people, it's the establishment.
The establishment. And just to add to that, Geeta, let's not forget what former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had told in 2013. He said that Gwadar has the potential to be transformed into a successful free port on the same lines as Hong Kong to attract foreign investment and boost the economy. And time to time, we have also seen prime ministers, former prime ministers of Pakistan, going and specifically meeting, going to China and meeting their counterparts, just to show that if anything is happening in that area, we are very much concerned that,
They are.
Yeah.
But they lie through their teeth when it comes to Pakistani forces dying. They can't lie when it's the Chinese dying. So the numbers are accounted for. And China is actually quite concerned about the security situation in Balochistan.
Yeah. And like you're saying that in the aftermath of the killing of these 5 Chinese engineers, the Chinese company, they have suspended civil works on both the Dasu and Daimler Bhasha Dam projects, and almost 1,000 Chinese engineers who are working over there have stopped that. Now, given the fact that considering these projects are really important for a country like Pakistan, which is like energy starved, and like electricity shortage over there is like huge. Don't you think this will be like a big issue to please the Chinese and get the work started?
See, it is an issue. But the Chinese also need this area, Anna. As much as Pakistan wants China to be invested, China also wants to remain invested. One, because they've already invested billions of dollars into this project.
70 billion.
Now pulling out of it is actually not a possibility. Secondly, they want this connectivity going because this will allow them an alternative to an already choked strait. Also, it's a very important part, an alternative that China is looking at from the Strait of Malacca, which is already quite choked. So they really require this. Anything, the products that go there can go into Xinjiang, that is to China, very, very easily and comfortably. So it's a massive project that they're looking at, and the whole connect to Afghanistan, Central Asia. So they're not pulling out, but they are concerned and they're very angry because Chinese dying and being attacked like this, and Pakistan not having a handle on the security situation is a concern. When work stops, they tend to lose a lot, Pakistan, because Pakistan already, the Pakistani economy is in doldrums. In fact, when Pakistan was completely going through a bad phase in the past few months, the only place where work continued to where the work continued was in Balochistan, in areas where Chinese have their projects. They didn't stop because that's a completely different and separate area and issue. And so they wanted the projects completed. But yes, things are being put on hold and delays are there. So imagine Gwadar being all the strategic port that it ought to be is still a strategic port in the making.
Yes, exactly. And like you said that Pakistan is in doldrums. About the repercussions on this, happening, I mean, the repercussion happening on Pakistan. I remember there was somebody who was telling me that the economic relief that it obtained from the IMF, Pakistan is saying that's their biggest achievement.
Imagine. Isn't that sad?
That's very sad.
That's very
But
sad.
that's
And this
the
is not the
reality.
first time.
Yeah.
This is not the first time that they have a situation where they're looking and seeking for bailouts.
Yeah.
And should this continue, it is looking very, very bad and dire and grim for Pakistan. So Pakistan has to now see how they want to handle their neighborhood. there was some conversation about trade with India, and then there was another statement that came out. They said no, nothing of the sort. And so India's saying, they have to decide. For us, we are very clear. If this continues, if the security situation remains the way it is, there can be no forward movement on anything bilateral. And yes, now everybody also is looking at the Saudis had met the Prime Minister because he'd gone on Umrah to Saudi Arabia. And during the visit, they put out a joint statement which says that issues between India and Pakistan should be resolved amongst themselves, particularly the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this is a huge shift where Pakistan always seeks UN intervention. Saudi Arabia did not allow that in the joint statement. So Pakistan now has to see that there are so many countries that are now coming and saying, well, if India does not want UN intervention or a third-party intervention, then stick to bilateral but resolve it. So it's not advantage Pakistan to have a joint statement where they're saying resolve issues bilaterally. It is advantage India. And in all this, if you go back to what is happening in Balochistan, whatever happens in Balochistan, and if there are more attacks on the Chinese, it is only because they don't want any development in Balochistan, which is not going to benefit the Baloch, Anna.
Themselves,
So the Chinese again have to realize and see whether if they're working in this only to further their interests with the establishment, or are they going to look at furthering their interests by developing Balochistan? They have not made any moves which are a step towards the Baloch. They've always considered them, as does Pakistan, as a security problem, a security issue that Pakistan has to deal with. But till the time that happens, I don't see stability.
That's what I'm compelled to wonder that, I understand the Chinese vested interest and we know how China functions. We know what situation Pakistan is in. But it's very idealistic to also imagine this. But can economic development not go hand in hand with human development as well?
It does. It does in the Punjab. It does in the Sindh, Anna.
Yes.
If you don't consider them equal enough to provide them with the equal opportunities, then it's a problem of the state.
But you know what, Geeta, just to end the discussion on this note, I think, there was this one, I cannot help but wonder how prophetic it was when Hillary Clinton, she said this about Pakistan, that if you keep snakes in your backyard, you cannot expect them to bite only your neighbors. Now it seems all these snakes are like biting all at once. In terms of like you explained that why China is so much invested in this particular area. But still, I just want to ask you this, that there's the Pakistan Taliban, which is carrying out suicide bombings, targeting Chinese nationals. Then in Gwadar, like we are discussing, the Baloch Liberation Army is carrying out the attacks. Then there are Baloch insurgents in Iran who are also active in the area. So to most of us, it would seem that China has gotten itself into sort of a mess because, things are not sorting themselves out. Things actually sort themselves out elsewhere, but in Pakistan, it just keeps, festering. It doesn't end.
I do think that China went in, they had a strategic vision on what they wanted to do, but I think they went into an area not knowing how bad the situation is. Because this, we're talking about terrorists and terrorism, but this does not just have to do with that. This has to do with a whole lot of people who are not happy with this development that will not benefit them. If it was any different from what it is, maybe things would have been different. Maybe there would have been a section who would say, okay, but this is for us too. And there would have been a smaller section who would be secessionist. Over here, larger number of them are or don't want to be with Pakistan. So that's the problem. That's where Pakistan does not realize how bad things are in Balochistan. You don't take people along. You only, there are homes in Islamabad, in Lahore, where during winters, especially in Islamabad, because which is colder, there during winters, the Sui pipeline, gas pipeline, uh, provides gas for heating to all the homes. They would turn on the gas and the central heating in their homes, and they just forget about it till March, April, when the winters are over.
My God.
In India, we don't have a system where you have homes heated.
The automated function is
because you have a free flowing gas coming from Balochistan.
Wow.
I'm saying the exploitation by certain section within Pakistan is so much, and the disparity so stark that it is for them now to see how they are going to look at the people of Balochistan, because the Baloch are not going to stop. Not that we condone any terror action against any nationality, whether Pakistani or Chinese. It's a sad situation, but the Chinese have to maybe recalibrate their presence in Balochistan till there is certain amount of stability and the security situation is under control, which is why they do pull out very often when there's an attack, and they do go back because that's something they can't stop now after putting in so much, after investing so much. So they are in a catch-22.
Like $70 billion
And I
is
think
not
I think that is not an enviable position. Despite what is being told to us that it should have been an enviable position and Gwadar should have been ours. I don't know whether it should have been ours or not. Because we don't have good ties with our neighbor. If we had good ties with Pakistan, Gwadar could have been ours, and we would have had great strategic positioning from there. But if not, then I don't know how we could have controlled or managed to keep Gwadar as part of Indian territory.
Intact. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Just, before leaving and before ending this thought, I was watching this documentary, and that very beautifully it was explaining how, the people of Gwadar are actually surviving. There was this another podcast also where there was a Pakistani journalist who was right there covering the floods. It was like, it was so difficult because the international community does not talk about it. But he said that the Gwadar Port is turning into this inhabitable wetland, but the angst, like for example the fishermen community, they are very the resentment in them is like it's really seeped in, because the Chinese workers over there, they actually stop them, halt if they see their ships or boats, and if and they are also punished.
Yes.
Yeah, they are asked to squat.
The Chinese are actually quite difficult to deal with within Balochistan itself. On projects, if you see their videos that come out where they are almost bullying the villagers till all of them come together, and then there's an incident. So they have been quite.
So I mean, I'm just closing the thought and thinking out loud that it's always been neglected, but this idea of and this desire to be liberated, do you think, because the locals are also now, they are very much feeling about it that we need to be liberated? Do you think now
See,
is the time?
That's Anna. That's a very difficult one because it's a sovereign state. And these are their territories. Imagine if somebody asks whether if a part of India does not want to be part of India, should it be not part of India? I'm sorry. These are not questions that can be answered with yes, because we support a certain movement. It's for the state to realize that there are disgruntled, disheartened, broken population in a certain part of their country, and they have done nothing about it, just called them terrorists. And this goes for every state where you see dissent, where you see that you maybe have a question on whether if you should be part of that country or not. They don't become terrorists. It's just people who are unhappy, and the state has to look into why they're that unhappy and can they be brought into the fold or not.
I think this line is actually going to stay with me, Geeta, because trust me, the situation, the times that we are living in, that resonates with a lot of domains. Those people who are behind bars, the political prisoners, if you talk about, so-called, labeling them into a certain community, certain sector. So yeah, I think I'll just leave
We have
that.
Myanmar, we have the Rohingyas.
Yeah.
There are so
Yeah,
many.
yeah.
So not an easy answer,
Hmm.
but the states have to take responsibility and onus, and look at the dissent as your own people being unhappy,
Yeah,
rather than labeling them.
yeah. Very
So on
true.
that note,
Very true. And I mean, this conversation was definitely very enriching to me. And I hope the listeners also who stayed till the very end, the listeners and the viewers who are thinking about this controversy and, fixated on, I mean, not everyone is fixated, but there are many who are fixated about this, concentrating on Nehruvian blunders. So please do, write to us.
listen to us.
Yeah,
If
and
you think we are not, our assessment is wrong,
yeah,
and if you have
a proper
your own
backing
opinion,
and logistics.
please share with us. It'll be great to know what you think.
Yeah. And the number that you can reach out to is 8588966996. And the email ID is pots@indiatoday.com. We'll wait for your feedback, your answers, your criticism, everything. So please write to us and keep listening to Geeta's World. Thank you.